Hi guys, so in today's video I want to talk about my biggest mistake that I have made in aerial, or what I think is my biggest mistake. And I think it's really helpful to talk about this because it can be very easy from looking at someone on social media to think that they have it all figured out and they have it all together and they never get anything wrong and their training is always fantastic and they know exactly what they're doing all of the time. And that just isn't the case. One of the things that has helped me become the aerialist and coach that I am today is getting things wrong and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. I think that's something that I am really proud of myself for being able to do, is actually knowing when I don't get something right or realizing that maybe there is a better way of doing something rather than thinking that my opinion and my way of doing things is the only way. So, what I think my biggest mistake with aerial has been in the past is thinking that if I want to get better at aerial, I need to be doing more aerial. I need to constantly be doing more, increasing more sessions, more training, more volume, more intensity, pushing my capacity constantly, and that's going to get me the results that I want. And part of this actually stemmed from the fact that I started aerial at age 29, which my opinion of that at the time was that I was coming into aerial really late in life. And so I needed to play catch up. If I wanted to get better at aerial, I needed to do more of it in order to catch up and get better and be legit. I also am somebody who has quite an obsessive personality. So when I get into something, I don't tend to half-ass it. I will give everything that I have to the thing that I love to do because of how much I enjoy it and how great I think that thing is. And this obviously can be very, very helpful in certain areas of your life, but it can also be a little bit detrimental, particularly when it comes to something physical. So in the past, I have often thought more training will get me better results. And I actually thought this even before I started aerial, actually. Like, there were definitely times where I would push myself much harder than I needed to when I was doing CrossFit or when I was doing calisthenics, because I just thought that, like, the harder you push and the more you work, the better results you get. And that is true up to a point, but you can definitely go way too far with it. So a really great example of doing this in aerial was when I went on a 1-month aerial intensive in London in February 2022. And I actually did this because I wanted to see if I enjoyed performing. I didn't know how to perform or anything about performance. So I thought, well, I'll go and do this intensive, and then not only will I gain more aerial skills, but I'll also learn how to perform and I can see if I like it or don't like it. And regardless of the outcome, I'm doing this in a safe space. It's not like I'm trying to perform for the first time on a paid gig. It's like super low pressure and I can just have fun. So I went on this intensive and I actually absolutely loved it. It was one of the best times of my life. I just remember enjoying it so much, training every day. Yeah, and it was with a wonderful group of people. But we were training for about 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. And that's a lot. Especially you have to bear in mind that me and everyone else there, we weren't like professional athletes. There were a few dancers on the course, but it wasn't like we had a background, like an extensive background of, you know, training in that way. So it was quite a shock to the system. It was a lot of hard work. It was great fun, but it was a lot. Um, and I really, really pushed myself. I was in pain almost every day. Because, the backs of your knees start to hurt from hoxing so much, or you get burnt on rope or silks from any number of exercises, or, you know, your hands hurt because you're gripping so much, or you rip a callus, or, whatever it is. So it really, it really pushed me physically. And it also made me realize that I could push my capacity, and I got used to that level of pain as well. And by the end of it, I was like, well, this is great. I've progressed so much. I better keep this up. And instead of giving myself a week off, and I should have taken at least a week off, possibly two, I was like, I'm just going to carry on training because my body can clearly handle this. So I'm just going to keep going with it. And I don't want to lose any of my progress. And a week later, I injured myself in a straps class. I tore my right QL and it was quite a bad tear, which you could tell from the loss of function in my entire core. I couldn't lie on my back and then sit up off the floor. I had to roll onto my side and push myself up with my hands. So that was it. I had to stop training because I didn't give myself that rest. My body got hurt and I was forced to stop. And that's a really good example of where I was so convinced that if I just kept training at that crazy pace, I would continue to get better and continue to improve, and the complete opposite happened. Um, and I've definitely had other injuries in the past because I was training when I was too fatigued, or I was training and I actually needed to be taking some rest. And I think it's really important to talk about these things because it's very easy to see training online and see what people are doing on social media and think, oh, I'm obviously just not working hard enough, or I'm not as good as them because I can't train as many times a week as them. And this misconception that doing more always equates to more results, better progress, is just not correct. I am so, so grateful that I went through that because it really helped me to understand that, like, if you don't give yourself adequate rest and recovery, your body will force you to take it. You'll end up injured or burnt out because your body will not be able to keep up with what you are trying to get it to do. And my goal before I started aerial, when I was training calisthenics, was always to be able to do this for as long as possible. And so pushing myself to the point of injury completely goes against my bigger picture goal of being physically strong and active until the day I die. And it just has really helped solidify that that is not right. More is not better. And I want to have a practice that supports my life and makes my life better and doesn't take away from it. And being injured absolutely takes away from my day-to-day life. So I am probably training aerial like the least amount just in terms of volume through the week. And I am the strongest I've ever felt in my entire life. And I'm the oldest I've ever been in my entire life because now I'm listening to my body. I'm taking rest days. You know, I'll happily take a full week off training if I need it. And it means that when I do my training sessions, they're really good quality because I have the energy and I have the strength to actually put a lot into them because I'm also giving my body the rest it needs between those sessions. And I'm also doing more training off the equipment as well. So I have found for me personally that if I want to do more training through the week, it needs to be training that isn't aerial. I cannot do 5 days a week of aerial anymore. That makes my body feel terrible. It's too much. I feel really good doing 2 or 3 sessions a week, really spaced out. And then for the other days when I want to train, I'll do a little bit of cardio or I will cross train. I will do a kettlebell session. I have a leg session that I do once a week as well. Like I just have these other ways of training and moving my body that feel really good, that build strength, that build mobility, that support my aerial, but don't create the same level of demand that aerial puts on my body. And this is something that works really well for me. And it's something that I try and encourage more with my clients too, because it really is not the case that doing more is going to get you better results. And it's of course different if you have a background in sport. If you grew up doing hours and hours a week of sport, your body is probably going to be more conditioned for that type of volume. But for somebody like me who I started my training journey in my 20s. I did some sport as a kid, but I wasn't like growing up doing, really high level competitive sports, and didn't do anything through my teenage years. I didn't begin my journey until I was in my 20s, and then it's been a case of trying to get strong and mobile with an adult body. So I don't have that same level of condition as somebody who did competitive sport, right? So it's also about just finding what works for you and your body, and understanding that no matter what your background is, you can still get really, really good at what you're trying to train. But the thing that's going to slow you right down is an injury. So it's also, where's that line between pushing yourself enough to see progress and to see change, but knowing where the limit is and not crossing over it. And so, really, the last thing I want to say on this is, if you feel like you're behind or you feel like you're not doing enough, that probably isn't actually the case. You're probably doing yourself a massive favor by not doing so much that you end up getting hurt. And if you're in this for the long haul, like I am, if your bigger goal is to train aerial or be physically active until the day that you die, then you have quite a lot of time, and you can take your time with it, and you can just, slowly and steadily make the progress that you want towards the goals that you have. And you don't have to worry about achieving them by a certain point. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that this helps you to know that you're not behind and you are on track, and also to not make the same mistakes that I did. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, or share it with someone else who might find it helpful, and I will see you in the next one.